Botoneras are depicted as objects of male desire, which implicates men, even though they do not appear in the frame of the photos. Because men are no longer on display, they presume to escape the paradox that plagues displays of manliness. Here it is useful to think of the distinction that Lacan draws between the gaze and the eye, or the look. As Silverman explains, the relationship between eye and gaze is analogous in certain ways to that which links penis and phallus. The former can stand in for the latter, but never approximate it. Lacan makes the point with particular force when he situates the gaze outside the voyeuristic transaction, a transaction in which the eye would seem most to aspire to a transcendental status. Briefly stated, no one can look without being located in the field of vision. When you look, you occupy a particular position, which is evident in what you look at is the point from which you look. Someone follow? Yes, okay. But you can aspire to step outside of the field of vision, to be everywhere, and thus to be nowhere. The gaze is what Lacan calls that unattainable status, that position outside of the field of vision. We feel ourselves seen by the transcendental gaze, but no one possesses that gaze. Still, people try to pass their eyes off as possessing the gaze. Men in particular aspire to possess the gaze, much as we aspire to appear to have the phallus. I find this formulation useful for understanding the Seminal Fraternity built up around Botoneras. The fraternity disseminates the look so widely as to make it appear to be the gaze, or so men hope. If a single man looks at a woman, he himself is trapped by that look. He projects his lack and his desire onto the woman, but he is still implicated. I believe that ever-multiplying photos of Botoneras serve to hide the eyes of the men who look at those photos. Positioning Botoneras as objects of the gaze helps the male body disappear from the field of vision to escape the visibility that causes anxiety. Men do not appear in the men's magazines that have come to dominate Argentine newsstands. Thus, the magazines appear to offer a solution to the paradox that a confirmation of manliness casts doubts on manliness. By relentlessly spectacularizing Botoneras while leaving men out of the frame and endlessly disseminating the point of view, the magazines seem to solve the paradox of visibility by celebrating men's manliness and heterosexuality without putting the male body on the line. I say that the rise of the Botonera only seems to solve the paradox of Argentine manliness because the male body does not quite escape representation. I will use an Argentine TV show to explain what I mean. In May of this year, Champs 12 debuted on Argentine television. 12 or 12 in Argentina refers to the Cubs fans. There are 11 players, so the 12th. It's like the 12th man. The plot of the show involves a 19-year-old woman who persuades her father to buy a soccer club for her to manage so she can exact revenge on the club's star player who insulted her when she was 12 years old. The review of the show in an Argentine newspaper concludes, Champs 12 recreates in miniature the world of Botoneras, especially condensed with the detail in its logo. This gushing sea that marks in its clearness what was not just Maradona's misstep with Riquelme, but also with his farewell phrase as a player. The ball for some time now is stained, but not with mud, rather with white. Okay, let me explain. First of all, there's a lot to unpack in this quote. First, upon being named coach of Argentina's national team, Maradona obliged Riquelme, the star player, to make a choice between going on vacation with his Botonera girlfriend and staying in Argentina to work out with the national team. And Riquelme chose the Botonera, so Maradona kicked him off the team. Second, in the logo for the TV show, the white letter C appears to be gushing. Third, when Maradona retired as a player, he made a speech on the pitch at Boca, concluding, "Soccer is the most beautiful and the healthiest sport in the world. Nobody doubts this, because if one person makes a mistake, soccer does not have to pay for it. I erred, I paid. The ball is not stained." Okay. Maradona's phrase means that soccer is too great to be sullied by Maradona's drug use. Also, given how prominently pelotas or balls symbolize manliness, Maradona's statement indicates that no one man's behavior can stain manliness as such. By contrast, the author of the review is saying that soccer is sullied, and perhaps manliness too, and not with mud, but with the viscous white substance that is represented as issuing from the sea. I do not think it is stretched to read that substance is semen. I've confirmed this with several Argentine men, all of whom immediately interpret it in this way. The author is saying that semen has sullied soccer and that it is the Botineras' fault. Okay, so why does semen sully or dirty soccer? Following Murad Aydemir, I assert that semen sullies manliness because the arrival of semen corresponds with the beginning of the end. Once a man has ejaculated, the erection that helped him appear to have the phallus is doomed. The climactic shape of male orgasm means that when semen appears on the scene, the veil begins to be lifted from in front of the phallus, revealing that what it hid is only a penis after all. Similarly, the gaze which is outside of desire is revealed to be a desiring eye. As Lacan writes of a man peeping through a keyhole, a gaze surprises him in the function of voyeur, disturbs him, overwhelms him, and reduces him to a feeling of shame. This feeling of shame is analogous to the shame that Lacan finds at the unveiling of what appeared to be the phallus, revealing it to be just another penis. Lacan explains that the voyeur is always caught because the voyeur looks with desire, and the gaze is outside of desire. No look is outside of desire because no look is outside the field of vision. A look always originates at a point which is implicated in what it sees. Lacan calls this point of view that is implicated by any picture the stain. He writes, if the function of the stain is recognized in its autonomy and identified with that of the gaze, we can seek its track, its thread, its trace, at every stage of the constitution of the world in the scopic field. As Thomas explains, the subject cannot sustain itself in representation without staining itself. Men try to claim the position of the gaze, but nobody can ever entirely disappear. Inevitably, it leaves a stain. It seems Lacan associates the stain with excrement, but at least in the case I presented to you today, it is clear that the stain is associated with semen. The Argentine men who try to escape visibility are betrayed by the seminal tracks that run through their scopic regime. The bodies that presume to disappear are nevertheless apparent in the traces of desire that they cannot avoid projecting onto the women they spectacularize. To conclude, the focus on the female bodies of Botineras serves to draw attention away from men and thus alleviates men of the feminizing burden of visibility. Women now occupy a place of visibility formerly occupied by men, and this new display serves to debase women by putting them in the abject position of sodomized lechera. But as bad as this new scopic regime is for women, it still fails to resolve the macho paradox for men. The Seminal Fraternity, that is an attempt to confirm men's manliness, undermines that manliness by leaving a viscous white stain that attests to the men's failure to escape visibility.